Um, so, I am Mel. This is my side of the aisle. And I am very passionate about healthy sexuality. I worked for several years in New York City to stop sexual abuse in the Jewish community, about 3 years. And now I've sort of crossed over to the healthy sexuality side of things, because what I saw was that if we don't create a culture of openness around sexuality and we aren't owning our sexuality, we're going to have massive problems, and those problems are going to stay hidden and secret and shameful for people's entire lives. If we do create a healthy culture of sexuality, I believe we will solve a lot of problems before they start, and I also believe that any problems that do happen will get addressed sooner and people will have more of their lives. So that's what my work is grounded in. Also, I just really like sex, and I like talking about it, and I've worked with a lot of men around it, and the most gratifying moments are when they have breakthroughs around everything that has to do with this, because it actually does work. And one of my guy friends said once that he didn't even realize you could get better at this, but you can. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm pretty nervous. This is my first time doing this talk. I have a lot of material, and I don't know how much I'm going to get through. So it's kind of an experiment. And what I'm going to ask from you is that you really pay attention to the parts that really resonate for you and are like, that actually made me think about something, that actually helped. And the parts where you're like, I mean, it was cool, but take it or leave it. Because I think what's going to happen is I'm going to trim away a lot of parts of this talk that aren't just the real meat of it. So if you could just pay attention to what really gets you and where you sort of lose interest, maybe you'll be riveted the whole time. That would be great, but that's my goal. Cool? And the way it's going to go is I'm going to talk for about an hour, and then we'll have a little break. And I brought you a treat for the break. It's not a sex toy, sorry. But it is yummy. And then we'll do a Q&A after that. So, please turn in bed. A talk for men, created by women. Oh, wait, I forgot something important. Okay, the other thing is that I'm a writer, and I do a lot of articles online on this topic, and I poll a lot of people. So my work is based on surveys that I've done of thousands of women and men, which I'm going to be sharing some of the demographics with you, but just so you know, it's not just me talking about stuff. Like, I've read thousands and thousands of survey responses, and in this talk in particular, I'm synthesizing a lot of what the women said to kind of bring to you as like this is what I'm understanding that they're saying. So when I speak, part of the reason I'm so nervous is that I want to make sure that I get it right, because I feel like I'm speaking for a lot of people. And I'm probably going to cry a lot, so you're just going to have to bear with me. Okay? Okay. All right. So why? Why does it matter if you please women in bed? They come back? Because you want to be this guy. You want to be the guy that they talk about at brunch. You want to be their sexual hero. I feel like that's a pretty common reason, because you want to be good at it, and you want them to be happy, and you want to be happy. I'm about to give you some statistics, so before I do that, I'm just going to tell you about the demographics of where these come from. So these are the results of surveys that I've done across. So it's synthesizing a few different surveys. It ended up being about 2,500 people, 80% women, so mostly women, which is good for this talk. 20% men, and about half single, half in committed relationships, and then 20% it's complicated, many of whom were separated from spouses. And actually, out of curiosity, how many people here are in committed relationships? Cool. How many people would classify themselves as single? Cool. Okay. Any it's complicateds in the room? Nice. There's always one, my friend. There's always one. Sorry, was that too loud? Okay, we'll work it out. All right. Age range is mostly 30s and 40s, and you can see some 20s and 50s. So it's pretty comprehensive. 20s, I have people all the way from 17 to 79. Not 69, 79. So lots of range. Okay, so why does this matter beyond just being good at it? This is why. So when I asked men, have you ever broken up with someone because of the sex? 45% of them said yes. I don't know, can you see that? Well, anyway, there's a 45 here. 45% of men said yes, they had. 62% of women said they had. So more women are ending relationships because of the sex than men, and I am one of them. And I didn't tell him that. So I theorize pretty correctly that there are a lot of women who end relationships because of the sex, but they don't tell their partner that. They're not talking to their partner about sex, not even when it's the thing that they're leaving them over. Okay. So, why does it matter? These are a couple of real responses. I wish I could have said what you said in your article, made him see that it was so important for him to be more open and gentle with me that he would lose me if he didn't change. By the time I decided to leave, I wasn't even open to trying with him anymore. This is referring to an article that I wrote that was basically saying what I told you, which is I ended a relationship because of sex and I was too scared to talk to him about it. And what I should have said was, this is so important to me that I need you to change this. Like, it's not like a nice to have, it's like, I need this, or I'm gonna leave. I found this a poignant response. I wish we could feel more free to talk about these things with our loved ones. It seems that the deeper we get into a relationship, the greater the fear of loss and the greater resistance to being truly vulnerable. It's an oxymoron, it should be the opposite. And I feel like this is really true because I've read a lot of responses from people who've been married for years, sometimes decades, who still don't know how to talk about it, and it's still a problem in their relationship. And I want to just say one thing before we continue, which is I'm going to give you some really good information. And if you're in a relationship or you know someone in a relationship where sex is a problem and it's not being addressed, I really want to give a shout out to sex therapists and regular therapists and couples counselors, because if there's been, it's kind of like, I talked to a couples counselor once and she said, it's kind of like if you had a sprain and you walked on it for years and it became like a broken leg. Like, people come to me when it's a broken leg and it's been so long and there's so much there that it's really hard to repair, whereas it's a lot easier when it's a sprain. So just a shout out to, I'm gonna give some really good information, and like, some people need deeper work, and that's appropriate. Okay, so the why you do wanna do it, because if you do, you will be confident and you will stand out. Trust me, you will stand out. And because when you get someone that you're pleasing in bed, she wants to please you back, and she's really lit up and turned on and expressed and expressive, which is a word that I hear from men a lot. Not necessarily that word, but that concept of like they want to be with a woman who's expressed and excited and lit up and turned on and radiant. Okay, these are a couple of responses from people who I found them inspiring. I recently started to see someone, and we very openly talk about sex stuff, good, bad, and ugly, and it's seriously life-changing, amazing, both the sex and the growing relationship. Do it, talk sex. I love sex. I love that my lover does too. He's pulled me out into the open, and I've done that for him. It's beautiful. So I think that's kind of what I'm going to show you how to do, is how to pull her out into the open, how to talk about sex in an inviting way instead of a way that maybe shuts her down. I've been with the same partner for 15 plus years. In that time, we've both overcome our own personal sex demons, which mostly occurred from previous partners rejecting us. Once we both let go and expressed our needs and desires to each other, sex became amazing. It was always good, but now it is usually mind-blowing. I requested extended foreplay, which we will get to, and now I get it nearly every time. Okay, so I have come up with a process. It is my very own process. It has 5 steps, and I am just gonna go over 2 today because I don't really have time for more than that. And really, I'm going to be focusing on the second step more than the first step. So the first step is foundational. It's kind of like if you're building a house, you have to have the foundation. It's not going to stand if you don't have the foundation. So I'm going to talk about that first, but mostly I'm going to talk about the second part, which is more about leading and how to communicate about sex with a partner. Cool? Yeah. Everybody still with me? Okay, great. Oh, this is just to validate. This is to validate something. I'm a bisexual woman, and women are more challenging to fuck than men are. It's slower, more foreplay, the cues are more subtle. So yeah, it's more work. I just want to acknowledge that we're complicated. We're complicated, and I really feel for you. I do, I really feel for you, and I just want to acknowledge that. Like, this isn't, like, easy. It's a process. Okay. The first thing that has to happen, the foundation of the house, is actually not about her. It's about you. And it's about balancing your heart and your cock energies. This doesn't necessarily mean your penis. I'm sort of using cock to mean like your fire, your essence, your drive, your desire. When you push her up against the wall, it's your cock. Like that's that part of you. And the heart is like the softer, more feminine, I'm going to look into your eyes, I'm going to hold your face side of things. I'm going to talk you through this because I'm not a designer, so like I'm doing my best with the deck, but I didn't really, anyway. So this is what I find a lot in the work that I do with men. Basically, there are two like archetypes of guys, especially in our country, in the US. This is very, very common. It's a little bit different abroad, but in this country, we're pretty weird about sexuality. It's all over like the commercials and everything, but when you really get down to it, it's still a puritanical society. We still have a lot of shame around it, so it's not very integrated. So what happens is I work with a lot of nice guys who they're kind of cut off from their bodies. They're usually living from the head up, and they're holding a lot of shame around sexuality. So they want to be nice to women. They want to be a woman's friend. They don't want her to get uncomfortable. They don't want her to feel creeped out. There's a lot of don't want. And what happens is that drive, that sexual drive, like gets really muted and hidden away. Like that's not really okay for me to show. So I'm gonna like be your friend. And like there's a lot of, like you'll notice like sometimes their voice will be a little bit more nasal. It's a little bit more like the energy's all kind of here up. There's no like grounded cock. And then the asshole is, he can get laid. This guy can get laid. This guy would be a player. He is more dominant, aggressive. He's an asshole. He's not connected to his heart. He's more what we would have in our culture as like the bad boy or the guy who gets the girl, but in like a really dominant way. And we sort of venerate this guy in our culture. This is like bro culture. It's notches on the bedpost. It's kind of venerated, and it doesn't feel very good. So, so with the boxes, so this guy is getting laid. The asshole guy can have sex. The asshole guy usually can't have healthy relationships. Sometimes he can have relationships, but they're not going to be healthy. And the nice guy is going to have a really hard time having sex. He's going to have a hard time getting first dates. He's going to have a really hard time getting second dates. When he approaches a woman like me, if I can't feel a man from if I can only feel him from his head up, I'm not gonna have sex with him. Like he's not gonna be in my bed. So the reason that I'm going over this first is because you can't please a woman if you can't get her into bed. Like you can't please someone in bed that isn't actually in your bed. So this is the goal. The goal is the integrated man, which I believe in our world as a whole, this is what is being called for. We need the healthy masculine. We need the balance. We need men that really have their fire intact and are connected to their hearts. The toxic masculine is in the White House. We're seeing it everywhere. It's really, really up in our world right now. I feel like it's really up so that it can get healed and transformed. And that's part of what I'm about. The advantage of the nice guy archetype is that a lot of times he's a really good listener. He's really in touch with his heart. He's in touch with a lot of, he has a lot going for him. He's usually very empathetic, etc. He's just not having sex or the kind of sex he wants or getting the kinds of women that he wants. But I have worked with these men, and when we have balanced these energies, it has been very transformative. And so anyway, there's that. Okay, how this shows up in the bedroom. Okay, this is the sexual range. There's the loving side of things, just like yin yang, and then there's the fucking side. So it's pretty obvious. Fucking is going to be doggy style, pushing her up against the wall. This is all about darker energy, more elemental, more fundamental, more like animalistic and primal. This is the energy that the nice guy does not have access to. So this guy can't really go there. The loving side is safe, gentle. It would probably be missionary or like looking into your eyes, cuddling, that parts. The asshole doesn't really have access to this. So the idea here is not that one is better than the other. It's just that this is a range of sexuality, and a woman is going to want all of it. She wants all of it. I want your heart and your cock. I don't want to have to choose. I don't want one or the other. I want both. I want both. And the integrated man can access both, and so he does what the moment calls for, So for example, my last boyfriend, we watched the movie Seven. Have you guys seen Seven? It's like really fucking dark. It's really dark. And then we had really dark sex. And he was willing to go there. He could feel it. He had access to that in him, and so he was able to bring it to the sex, and it was really satisfying. It was like it was what was happening in the moment, and he could meet that. A man who isn't integrated yet is gonna shy away from that. That's not comfortable for him. He's scared of hurting her. He's scared of, he's not ready yet with his dominance to go there, and so this is what it sounds like when women talk about it. For the light side, it's like, I want you to go slower. I want you to be gentle. I want to orgasm while looking into your eyes. Like, I want that. I want that softness. I want that. I really do. This is what the other side looks like. This was in response to what's something you wish you could have told your last partner with no sugarcoating. That he made love to me so tenderly, it felt like I was making love to my sister. The way he treated me in bed made me feel like he wasn't really attracted to me, that he didn't need to say my love every time he talked to me in the bedroom. Be less gentle and more passionate. Be more assertive. I won't break. Don't be shy. I want you to ravage me. When women talk about this part of sex, I don't know, I'm going to quote Kendra right now. Kendra says, and I agree, I don't know a woman that doesn't just want to be fucked sometimes. Like, that's a thing. That's a real thing. It's not all women, and it's not all the time, but most women I know want that sometimes. They don't always want it to be soft and gentle and pretty and light and, you know, the rom-com sex. Like, sometimes they want it to be intense. Yeah, I needed him to be rougher, take off the kid gloves. I'm not going to break. Sweet and slow is good sometimes, but other times I wanted it more raw, like he really wanted me. And this is why. Because the healthy masculine says, I want you and I respect you. They don't choose. It's not one or the other. Both are there. I will respect your no. I will wait until you're ready. I have space and time. And I want you. I'm bringing all of me. I want you. So that we feel safe and desired. We want to feel safe and desired. We don't want to just feel one or the other. Cool? Everybody still with me? Okay. All right. Okay, so that's step one, is balancing those energies. I'm not going to go into how to do that tonight. That's a whole other subject, but I want to make sure that you know that that's there. Okay, so the second step in the process is to cross what I call the divide. There is a major divide. This shows up in every survey I do. Women, what do you wish you could have said to your partner about sex? How to please me, how I wanted to be touched or how to touch, about my likes and needs, basically everything that are my needs. Be more specific about what I want and more important, what I don't. Can I talk honestly how I need to be made love to by you? Exactly how I like it, and where to find my clitoris. How I like to be touched, how I want to be touched and how I don't like to be touched, how I want to be touched on my vulva, the speed, the intensity, etc. So women are over here saying, I wish I could tell you how to touch me, okay? And what do you think the men are saying? They're saying that I wanted her to tell me what she wanted me to do. I need her to tell me what she likes, what she needs. She won't tell me how to be better. What am I doing wrong? Show me how to do it right, or how you like it. Take my hand, take my penis, show me. What am I doing right? Tell me. You get the idea. So women are here like, I wish I could tell you. And men are here like, I wish you would tell me, okay? And this divide, this is what I'm going to talk about. This is what's important. This chasm here, which it really is like a chasm, is a problem. Okay, so why does this chasm exist? Why are the women over here being like, I wish I could tell you these things? And the men are like, why don't you tell me these things? Well, because feelings. Because both sides are really afraid of hurting the other side's feelings. This is the number one answer when you poll people. They say, why don't you talk to your partner about sex? They're like, I don't want to hurt his feelings. Or I don't want to hurt her feelings. Profound fear of rejecting something that resides near the core of our being. There's some typos, by the way, that people put in. I just left them in because I thought they were more authentic that way. I try to tell him, but I don't want to hurt his feelings or ego. Don't know how to communicate when I don't like something without shutting my partner down. This was primarily why I didn't tell my last boyfriend, because I was like, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I tried a few times to tell him, and we'll get to that, but you need to know that this is the number one answer. This is also the conscious answer. This is what women are aware of when they're talking about why don't you talk to your partner about sex. Okay. This is a real response. When I say that hurts or doesn't feel good or goes slower and you get frustrated with me, I recoil inside and lose trust in you, then there's no way I'm going to really relax and let you have me the way I know you crave. So I put this in here because I just want to say, like, this is a founded fear. This is a real fear. This does happen. People do communicate about sex and then they are not received in that. And that's very common, I think. Okay, the second reason for the gap, this is, again, why the women are over here not telling you guys what the hell's going on, is social conditioning. We're all familiar with this. I've always had an easier time talking about and doing new things with a fling rather than my partner because I don't care what my fling thinks, but I don't want my partner to think I'm a trashy whore. All of that Madonna whore stuff that you've heard about is real. Women really are afraid of being labeled a slut or thought of as dirty. Sexuality is weird in our culture, and that is one of the messages that women get, which is you should be really good at it, but you shouldn't be too good at it, or want it too much, or be too expressed, because that's gross and over the top and slutty, and we will ostracize you at school and shame you in the workplace and basically hate on you. I need it to be dirtier. I'm not a sweet, fragile flower. Again, the range. I like porn. I like dirty talk. Call me names that I would slap you for outside the bedroom. I'm adventurous. But I need you to take the lead because I've been socially conditioned that being a slut is bad, and I think you'll be disgusted if you learn that I'm just as kinky or kinkier than you are. So there's a lot of women that don't tell you what they really want because they really are afraid that you're gonna shame them. Okay, this is the real fucking truth. Okay, I'm about to get really fucking real. When a woman is over here like, oh, I don't want to tell him, I'm scared, what if I hurt his feelings? What she is really feeling is a deep elemental fear under that of, okay, so you tell him and it hurts his feelings, what does he do? What does he react with? Why are you so afraid of that? This is totally true for me. This is what I'm afraid that you will do or say if I speak up. Well, fuck you then. Oh yeah, you don't like the way I go down on you? Go fuck yourself. Like, I'm afraid that you'll like attack me or lash out or sort of like just, attack me or lash out. That's pretty straightforward, right? Everyone understands this. Nothing. I'm afraid that you'll say nothing and you'll withdraw. You'll stop trying anything and you'll leave me. I always knew you were a dirty slut. This goes back to the same. And I just want to reiterate that these are unconscious fears. These aren't like, I'm totally aware that I'm afraid of being labeled a slut. This is what actually is underneath all of the rest of it that we're not talking about as a culture. We're not talking about this yet. This is a real fear. Especially for religious people. I've worked with, especially Catholics. If you've ever been with a Catholic partner, this is very common. This is a really big fear for them to get over, is being labeled a slut. My last girlfriend was way easier or less work than you. You're broken. This has actually been said to women that I know. And the attitude is, well, like it's worked for other women. Like why can't you just be easier? Like, why are you so difficult? And that's really, really painful. Obviously, it's really painful. I haven't experienced it, but my very close friends have experienced it, and it's very damaging because it makes her feel like there's no hope, like she's broken. That's it, she's broken. This word broken comes up a lot in the surveys. Okay, so the bottom line is that it's really not that easy for us to cross the divide to you. Like we're over here like, oh my God, like if I tell him like he's gonna hate me or he's gonna shame me or he's gonna attack me or like I'm gonna lose him. So we need your help. Okay, how to cross the divide. There's some really good news about this, which is that the couples that I've talked to who have crossed the divide, first of all, have great sex, but more importantly, it's kind of like opening the floodgates a little bit. It's like if you do this work and you cross the divide, it tends to last. So once she feels safe and comfortable sharing, it's not like you constantly have to do it, but it is a process to get there, and that's what this slide is about. Okay, so if you were standing on your porch and there was a pussycat and you wanted it to come in your house, how would you act with that pussycat? You can actually answer this. Okay, yeah, you'd make noises. What else? Slow. Okay, so let's talk about slow. If you're coaxing a pussycat to come into your house, the first thing you're gonna do is, the first thing I would do is like stand on the porch or sit on the porch and just be where it can see you so that it starts to feel safe and come closer. You're not gonna like go up to it. It's gonna run away. So this is a process. There's a lot of men who are like, oh yeah, I've totally talked to my woman about sex. And when I actually get into dialogue with them, they're like, well, I asked her what she liked. Right? And they think that's like enough, and it's really not, because of all of the reasons we just went over. It's really hard for us to get there. It's not just, well, what do you like? Like, it's really hard. There's a lot of unconscious fear locked up that you need to help us with, otherwise we're not necessarily going to tell you the truth. Okay, so the first thing to know is that crossing the divide is like coaxing a pussycat inside. It's a process. It's making it a safe environment. It's all of those kinds of things. Oh, this is very common. This is what happens when women try to cross the divide. I have no problems telling a partner to touch me lighter, but they don't always get it. Then it takes a while, I get frustrated, I feel he's frustrated, and then I just don't want to anymore. All things put together, I often feel broken. There's that word again. This is totally me. With my last guy, I was like, you know, it would be really great if you touched me lighter, specifically fingering, like with his fingers, because it feels better. I feel more, there's more sensation, I feel more. He did it lighter for about 2 minutes and then went back to how he'd been doing it. The next time I said, oh, lighter, 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 lighter. And again, it worked for like 2 minutes and then it went back. The third time I just said lighter again and then I gave up. This is very common. A lot of survey respondents said this. A lot of the women said, I tried, and it didn't work. And what I think is happening is that the way that women communicate is usually more subtle and more, and we're so scared of hurting your feelings that we're framing it in a positive, like, oh, it'd be really nice if it was lighter, when what we mean is, ow, like that hurts. Like that hurts me. When I've polled men and women, the number one problem for women has been pain. And that is simply not the case for men. I'm reading thousands and thousands of survey responses and men just aren't talking about physical pain the way that women are. Like, porn is where a lot of our men learn about sex, and it's like, I'm a woman who watches porn, so I can say this like with a lot of authority. Like, it's like I've met you or worked together for 30 seconds and now I'm like rubbing you like this and like finger banging you and then we're fucking. Like, it's a really poor place to learn about how to actually please a woman. It's okay for what it is, but it's one of the only places men have access to learn about sex, and that's a really big problem for this culture, all of us. Okay, so great. So crossing the divide is about creating and holding a safe sexual space for her. Okay, so the first part of this is how you approach it. So a lot of the guys, like I said, that I talk to approach it like, well, what do you like? How do you like it? What do you want? And that doesn't really work for us, a lot of us, most women. A great example of this is my other ex-boyfriend once went down on me, and then we were talking and he was like, if you don't tell me what's good, like, I'm never gonna get better. And the way he said it like that, like he said it in this like frustrated way, like, why don't you tell me? And I was like, oh my God, like first of all, he was already good at it, but it was so, it shut me down. Like, I really wasn't excited to talk to him about anything about sex after that point. Like, if you come with like, why don't you just tell me? Then you're gonna get a phone call. No, I'm just kidding. You're gonna get a response that's like, it's already hard, like, and I'm just gonna get smaller over here, on the divide. So what works instead is to come and say, I really want this to feel good for you. I really want this to feel good for you. Like, I really want that. If that's true. If it's not true, don't say it. Like, don't, like, you know what I mean, bait and switch. But if it's true and you do actually want to know, this is the first step. This is leaving the saucer of milk out for the cat. Like, I really want this to feel good for you. Other things you can say are like, I really want to know. I want to know what works and what doesn't. Like, just so you know, I always want to know. Like, if something I'm doing is hurting or doesn't work for you, I want to know. If something is great, I want to know. And then understand that doesn't mean she's just going to like tell you everything. It's a process. So you're coaxing her into the house. Like, I want to know. You're making it safe. Every time you say that, I'm going to cry. Every time you say that, she feels like maybe you won't shame her. And maybe you won't call her a slut. Like, maybe it is safe. Like, she's like, oh, like, maybe it is safe. She's kind of like testing it out, like, maybe it is safe. And every time you do it, it's like helping. Like, you're building a little yellow brick road for your pussycat. Okay. Right, I always want to know what's working and what isn't. Please keep in mind that, like, our body parts are really sensitive, and pain is, like, number one for women. So it's possible that you're doing something that hurts her. Okay, so this is kind of fun. When you create the sexual space, you're going to get a range of responses. Imagine that. So I have a girlfriend who read my article about how to talk about sex and forwarded it to her fiance. And he read it, and she read it, and he was like, well, I always want to know. And she was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And so she was like, well, last night, if you had just like kept going, like I would have gotten there. And he was like, I had no idea. And this was like totally new information. And she was like, it's been amazing ever since like that. Like it's been amazing. Like it's been like I can actually say something and he's gonna listen to me. Like she didn't know where he was on that scale. So it doesn't even have to take a long time. It's just about like creating the space. So like basically when you do this, you're gonna get a range of responses. Someone like me is more on the expressive side, which means like I know my body pretty well, I know what I like, I know what works for me, I know what doesn't, and it's sort of like if you make it safe for me, I'll be like, oh, this is great. So like I'm gonna tell you, because I know myself really well. I am also not a survivor of trauma. I am not a sexual abuse survivor. I am not a survivor of trauma. This is a really big deal, and what you're gonna find is that some women are going to be really expressive and know themselves really well. Some women aren't. So you're going to make that safe space, and it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. Like you're building the path. You're bringing her in. You're getting to know her. She doesn't necessarily know her body as well. There is a continuum upon which, like, because obviously the big elephant in the room here is we're only talking about your side. We're not talking about her whole journey. She's got a whole journey she's on to be comfortable in her sexuality. We're just talking about your side of how to help her be expressed. Okay, so these will be kind of fun. You guys are going to guess from these next responses if you think these women are expressives, medium expressives, or shy girls. Which one do you think this is? Pretty specific, right? I mean, pretty specific. Expressive. This woman is expressive. She's telling you pretty specifically what to do. Is everyone done? Okay. I should put like an NSFW on this chalk. Okay. Yeah, I wish I had told him that I was nervous about sitting on his face because it made me vulnerable. And I wish we had talked about it because if I know I now realize, so this is a typo, I now realize we both would have loved if I could have overcome my shyness. Medium? Maybe medium, maybe shy. We haven't finished yet. I really like it when you're rough with me, but I don't always know when or different ways to tell you. Shy? Okay. I think this one is shy. Because she really, like, it was something even that worked for her. It wasn't even criticism, and she just couldn't get there to say something. This woman at least has insight into what she likes, but she doesn't always know when or how to tell. So she's sort of like, I mean, I like this, but I'm not sure when. So, okay, I think everyone gets this part. Okay, great. Okay, so let's say that you create the safe sexual space, and then nothing really happens. You're like, well, I told her I really wanted to know, and then nothing happened. This is where you come in as the oak tree. You are the oak tree. You are the man. You are holding the space, okay? It's gonna take people different amounts of time. Some women are really gonna need you to say, I really wanna know, 20 times. And the key is that if she ever gives you any feedback at all, say thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me. Because all she's looking for is that you don't shame her, denigrate her, attack her. Like all you need to do is not do those things and you're doing it right. Like you don't have to be crazy effusive and whatever, you just have to not attack her. So hopefully no one's gonna be attacking anyone anyway, but you get what I'm saying. This builds trust. Every single time she gives you any feedback and you thank her, it builds trust, builds trust, builds trust. Pussycat is coming in the house, coming in the house. And that's it. Then you enjoy, you have satisfying sex, and your pussycat is happy. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. And I have some some basic like sex facts that I think are, I've pulled the most important ones ever. I've done a lot of research. I read about this shit all the time. These are the most important things that you should know. So I think I'm gonna do it. Who wants me to do it? Okay, all right, let's do it. Okay, sex facts and hacks. First one, not that, that's the end. Okay. Sex facts number 1, a man typically ejaculates 2 to 3 minutes after entering the vagina. It takes a woman between 10 and 20 minutes to climax. This is the kind of shit I really feel like should be taught in schools, and we'll get to that, but it actually takes a man between 4 to 7 minutes to have an orgasm. This is Masters and Johnson-based research. So women are about twice as long as men, a little bit more than twice as long. Pretty basic takeaway. Women take longer to get there. I talked to one woman yesterday who was like, yeah, he went down on me for like 2 minutes. And it's like, I'm just getting started. Like the engine is revving. Like I wasn't there yet. And so the expectation, I think, is again, based on porn, which is not real. And yet we think it's real. So, okay, that's number 1. Number 2, 70% of women don't orgasm through intercourse. This is a really big deal because I feel like right now, like intercourse is thought of as like the thing, like this is the thing. And if we really want to please women in bed, we need to expand what we think of as sex. So sex, for a woman who doesn't orgasm through intercourse, going down on her isn't like foreplay, it's the thing for her. Do you know what I mean? Like it's the main dish. So anyway, it's a whole other talk, but I feel like there's something important here about what does it mean for different people when it comes to sex. It's not always about intercourse. And sex fact number 3, on average, men take about 5 minutes to come to full physiological arousal, and women take 45 minutes. That is not to say that you need to be like going down on her for 45 minutes, okay? Although you can, that's cool if you want to do that. Like foreplay can start, like in the kitchen, if you come up and you're like kissing her on the neck, if she's starting to build the energy, it can be a long time. It's so much longer than we think that it is. It's so much longer than we think that it is. It's so much longer. Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, the takeaway here is when women scream at me about foreplay, which they do in every single survey, it's partly physiological, like their body isn't ready yet. And I have noticed this for myself, like he doesn't even need to be doing anything different. We can just be making out. He doesn't even need to be going like higher and higher and higher. It's like literally just the delay. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just the fact that my body is getting time to do its thing. The thing that's really important that's related to this is that a woman's genitals engorge with blood. I know that sounds really gross, I'm sorry. But it engorges with blood as the encounter progresses. So most women need a very light touch at first, and then it can get heavier as the encounter progresses. So it's like a mountain that you're going up, and a lot of men are just like doing the thing that they see in porn, which is there's one way to do it, and like this is how. Like one woman said, "Don't rub my clit like you're rubbing a spot off the carpet." You guys, there were some really funny responses. So I think that's pretty straightforward, right? Okay, great. Okay, a couple of sex hacks to leave you with. This one's really important. This one is, if you've crossed the divide and you've made it safe for her to share, especially if she doesn't know her body that well, or she's really young, or she's just starting out, or whatever it is, you're gonna want to get some feedback, and you're gonna probably have to ask for that feedback. Even if you've made the safe space, she's gonna need a little direction. So the goal here is for you to ask winning questions, because we really want you to win. Like we really want you to win with us. And what doesn't tend to work are binary questions. Is this good? Do you like that? Because we really don't want to say no. Like we don't want to say no to you. That's like our nightmare. We don't want to say no and risk hurting your feelings, right? So what's better is directional questions. Directional questions. You want to get some feedback. You want to know, like, am I in the right spot? Like, how's the pressure? Things like that. So directional questions versus like binary. This one is more particularly for people that are in relationships that I feel like when you're in a relationship and you haven't been talking about sex, or even if you have been talking about sex, it's even harder to talk about it sometimes, because you might feel like, you didn't tell me this? Like, for 5 years you haven't told me that it doesn't really do it for you when I go down on you? Like, what the fuck? Like, so this is a hack that you can use to get some feedback, courtesy of Adam, this guy. This is your hack. Instead of, is that good, to do like a kind of like warmer, colder game. So if he's going down on you, or if you're going down on her, to get some feedback. And like I said, this would be, I think, kind of strange for people that have just started dating, but for established partners that are like, hey, let's make our sex awesome. Let's really make our sex awesome. This is the one of the ways to do that. Okay. I'm getting antsy, and so are you, so we're gonna wrap this up. Okay, so my vision. My vision is really big, and it is, like I said, I want this stuff to be taught in schools. And I think that a lot of pain could be avoided, and a lot of relationships would still be intact if there was more support around this. Right now in our schools, sex ed is not really sex ed. It's abstinence and STI education, and maybe putting a condom on a cucumber. We are not educating people about pleasure. We're not educating them about pleasure, and we're missing each other. Like, the misses are really heartbreaking in my research, but the good side of it is actually really inspiring. And the best parts of my surveys that I see are the couples who are like, dude, we're 20 years in and it's great. Like, it's still great. It's not, right, it's possible. The dream is out there, guys, the dream is out there. So that's my vision. My vision is education and to get it into schools at some point. And this was a very small sort of taste of a much larger body of work that I have, that I'm really passionate about. I've worked with a lot of men on transformation, and like a lot of our work is on the foundation of what I talked about earlier, of balancing the heart and the cock. And what I found is that for the men who've worked on that, everything just gets easier. It's easier for them. And this is not just relevant for single men. This is totally relevant for men in relationships, because what often happens in relationships is when she isn't satisfied, she doesn't want sex, and then she doesn't tell him why. He gets frustrated and anxious, and they call it the vicious sex cycle, where he starts to like wonder, why aren't we having sex, all this stuff, and then they don't communicate about it, and then the sex is still bad, and it kind of just spirals downward. And some of that is about communication, but some of it is about his energy, how he's approaching her, how he's initiating sex. Like, there's this one survey respondent who was like, my husband comes and like pats me on the head, and it was very sort of like please, please, and that's not necessarily gonna work. So yes, I think you get the idea. So yes, so I am creating a course. It's called Please Her in Bed. I'm really excited about it, and it's gonna launch late spring, early summer, so in a few weeks. If that is at all interesting to you, then put your information on your waiver, your email and your phone number, and please write legibly, because no offense, but you're dudes, and I really want to be able to read it, and I will follow up with you on that.